From Lagos, Nigeria, this is News Central. I'm Felicity Ezewike. The top stories tonight. Senate passes Electoral Act Amendment Bill as protests resume over real-time transmission of votes. Nigeria joins Muslim faithful across the world to usher in holy month of Ramadan as Saudi Arabia sides crescent moon. World leaders pay tribute to United States civil rights leader Jesse Jackson, who dies at 84.
In business, Nigeria Database Protection Commission probes Chinese-owned platform Temu over alleged regulatory breaches.
And in sports, Arsenal and England winger Bukayo Saka signs new 5-year deal with the Gunners, making him the highest-paid player at the club.
Thank you for joining us. Tonight begins now. Tension fled at the National Assembly in Abuja following the release of tear gas canisters by security operatives to disperse protesters who are demanding that lawmakers amend the Electoral Act to allow for real-time transmission of election results. My colleague Joshua Imarai reports.
These were moments before the peaceful protest over electoral reform spiraled into chaos. Protesters under the banner of the Movement for Credible Elections assembled at the entrance of the National Assembly, calling on lawmakers to adopt provisions that guarantee real-time electronic transmission of election results.
It's very clear without ambiguity. And what they have done is to already they're basically preempting us for the fact that they are planning to do exactly the provisos that they have put to that clause. Is that what we should take?
No. What we are doing here today is our right.
Yes, sir.
And is our love for the country we are expressing.
Yes, sir.
They cannot be too sure that every part of Nigeria will continue to wait and protest peacefully like this. So the earlier they abandon that attempted coup and do the right thing, the best for the country.
The protest began with speeches and a press briefing, but later escalated when demonstrators attempted to move closer to the main gate of the complex. Security operatives resisted the move and subsequently fired tear gas canisters to disperse the crowd.
The Nigerian police force approached with extra vans, with extra policemen, and they are raining tear gas, as you can see from the visuals.
In the ensuing confusion, some protesters alleged harassment by security personnel, while a driver said to have conveyed demonstrators to the venue was forcibly dragged away by armed officers.
Why did he beat you? I know. They throw the chaga. I see one small girl, the woman, they cry. I call it the Peking child. I put her throw the girl. I say, Oga, I beg her, Oga, my binu. I beg me not to again. Before I know, back. I saw Oga, see my ID card. See my, I show him. Go see him for what's up. I say, see my ID card. I'm a driver, see my beg, my binu.
Although the protesters were eventually dispersed, organizers insist the agitation is far from over. They warn that failure by the National Assembly to address their demands could trigger a nationwide protest. In Abuja, for News Central, I am Joshua Imarai.
Thank you, Joshua. While that was ongoing, the Senate was thrown into a rowdy session during its plenary sitting to make amendments to the 2027 election timeline and a decisive vote on the controversial electronic transmission provision. Meeting in the Committee of the Whole, the upper chamber successfully amended Clause 28 of the Electoral Act 2026, reducing the mandatory notice period for election from 360 days to 300 days, aimed at preventing the 2027 general elections from coinciding with the holy month of Ramadan and the Lent period. The session, however, turned volatile during the consideration of Clause 60, subsection 3 as lawmakers clashed over the backup plan for results transmission. News Centre's National Assembly correspondent Sage Ibrahim was at plenary. He joins me now for a situation report. Also joining in is the former INEC Electoral Commissioner Mikey Guinea, as well as cleric Issa El-Buba, rights activist who was part of the protest, part of the protest at the National Assembly earlier today, and we understand things happened. Let's start with an update from Sage. As briefly as you can, run us through what you witnessed at the upper chamber earlier in the day.
Well, good evening, Felicity. Lawmakers convened today at both the House of Representatives and the Senate. The expectation from Nigerians outside and observers was that some conversation was going to be had on the contentious clause 60 sub 3 of the Electoral Act Amendment Bill. However, the conversation was focused on Clause 28, which had to do with timeline for the election, which was subsequently amended from 360 days to 300 days. According to our lawmakers, this was to provide for Nigerians who would be observing the Lent and the Ramadan fast as at the time to be able to effectively participate in the electoral process way ahead of the Ramadan and the Lent fast. Of course, there was no way that the conversation about the contentious clause 60 sub 3 would not have come up, and this was at the point where during the consideration of the bill clause by clause at the committee of the whole, Senator Inaya Baribe, had attempted first and then subsequently declared a point of order citing Order 72 of the Senate sitting rules, and this clause actually calls for a situation where any member of the chambers does not agree with what the president of the Senate is saying. He has the right to declare a division, which he did, and then lawmakers were at this point compelled to individually vote on their position of the proviso, which was attached to the clause 60 sub 3, that in the situation where e-transmission, that's the electronic transmission of results, does not happen or is not able to happen due to technical or internet glitches, then the presiding officer or at this point, the polling officer then goes on to adopt the manual collation of results, which is filling the form EC8A and then taking this to the collation center. Well, a lot of all the senators who were at the sitting were forced to stand up and give their position with regards to whether the proviso should remain in as a clause or as part of the clause or be removed. And, the vote was done. 55 of the lawmakers voted in support of it, with an inclusion of the Senate Minority Leader, and 15 opposition lawmakers voted in support of the proviso being removed. But effectively, the proviso remained, and the reenactment and amendment of the bill was done and subsequently passed. Felicity.
All right, Sage, thank you very much for that quick wrap-up. Let's jump now to Issa El-Buba. Issa, we understand you had an experience at the National Assembly today. Could you give us a quick recap of how you got caught in the web?
Assembly to join the youths that are standing, demanding for the reform in the electoral bill. And what they're asking is a simple thing, simple in the sense that what they want is a credible election, and so they want to make sure that the process is all well and the process is done correctly, because this is about them. It's about the Nigeria they live in. So I came in from the US, and this morning, as I came in, I went there to stand with these young people and encourage them that, look, Nigeria is going to be the Nigeria they have always desired to have. And so we stand with them that there should be electoral reform in terms of the e-transmission. And it was peaceful. They conducted themselves so well, so respectful. And then suddenly, while we were having the press release and then discussions were ongoing, the next thing was the police tear gassed the entire crowds that were there, and they just bumped us with that. And I was so shocked, because I was in America a few days ago. That's where I came in from, and I was privileged to be in the Capitol Hill. Privileged also to be able to be part of some session with the American Congress people, and we made our presentation. I came in as a Nigerian to America, but I was received with honor. They listened to our petition. They listened to all that we want to say. Then coming back to my own country, the thing I will receive from the National Assembly was for us to be tear gassed. And that was something that was terrible, especially to a younger generation that are beginning to stand up to say, look, what we want is, we want credibility to be done. How can people sit down in the National Assembly and just be running things without listening to the cry of the people they represent? And if you're in there representing the people, you should be able to defend what the people are looking for.
Okay,
they are not telling you vacate your seat. All they're telling you is...
Yeah, you made a statement that I'd like to just jump off on. You said you wanted to encourage the young people that they will get the Nigeria that they desire. But looking at the decision that is being taken by the National Assembly at the moment, which seems contrary to the expressed wish of the people who are protesting, what is your level of optimism that when the joint committee meets, anything will change other than a harmonization of the decisions that have been made on the Electoral Act?
Well, if I get you right, one of the things I would say is what we have demanded for, if I get your question correctly, because the sound is not too clear.
I'm happy to retake the question quickly.
What we are asking...
Okay, so just to say that you expressed a desire that the young people that are protesting will get the desired Nigeria of their dream. And I'm asking you, considering the decision that's been taken by the National Assembly, do you expect any further changes that will be in harmony with the decision, the desires of the people who are protesting by the joint committee or the leadership of the country at the moment?
Basically, this is what we're expecting, but then with what they have done, it shows us that they've already declared, let me use the word, they've declared a coup or they've declared a war against the Nigerian state or the Nigerian people. But then I just want to remind them that, look, we've seen it all. I am an elder now. I'm a father and a grandfather. We've seen it all. And at this time, everybody needed to focus on how they can rewrite history and how they can put Nigeria back on track. These young people need to be encouraged. You need to feel the pain and the frustration of the young people. And when I went to Europe, I saw the state of Nigerians. They are all crying. They want to see a nation that is working. And simple transmission of result is just becoming an issue. Look at what went on in the House of Representatives. Look at the chaos there. Look at the rowdiness in the National Assembly. That shows you that these people are not ready to give birth to the nation that will be good for all. So for us, we are standing on our grounds that this thing must be done, and it must be done. A 2027 election cannot hold without doing the right thing.
Isa, thank you very much for sharing your views with us. And as always, we hope for a better Nigeria. Let's turn now to former INEC Commissioner Mike Igini. Thank you very much for being here. I'll add two questions and hope you just tackle them for us. First, I'd appreciate if you could establish your position on the Electoral Act amendment controversy, and then perhaps talk to us about what impact the inclusion of both electronic and manual transmission and the timing of the transmission of the Form EC84 have on the integrity and speed of election results?
Well, thank you very much. The greatest promise of democracy and the whole essence of embrace of democracy is because it brings about participation and accountability in the process of human development. the reason why we fought for democracy under the military at the time when the journey of Nigeria and the prospect of democracy were less certain was essentially because of the absence of a parliament. Because from the First Republic and even under the military, we have always had executive as well as the legislature, the executive and judiciary. These have been the institutions that have been of old. What was lacking was parliament, that the people have no representation. That was why we fought for democracy. Now, it is unbelievable that in a democracy, which of course have said the whole embrace of it because it brings about participation, we have got to a level where the far corner no longer listen to the far corner. What we now have is what a scholar, John Frisk, described as semiotic democracy. The gulf between the people and those who are supposed to be representative. Because the only reason why we wanted democracy was that we needed a parliament where the people will not only have representatives, they will have representation. With respect to the ongoing amendment, it is unfortunate. I have said elsewhere that I consider the 10 years I spent in INEC as years wasted. They are in vain. Because for over 10 years, a decade, since 2010, we have embarked on the pilot of how to transmit election result electronically. The whole essence of transmission of election result can be summed up in 3 words: trusts, efficiency, security or safety of the verdict of the people as expressed at the polling unit. These are the fundamental pillars of e-transmission. As a matter of fact, I must say this here, this controversy we had in 2021 as the nation was preparing for the 2023 elections. I left office in 2022. Before we left office, we had used the entire process that had been developed for e-transmission to conduct over 105 elections, including 5 governorship elections, 105. As you will have seen in the ongoing debates, INEC, as it happened the other time, was completely absent. We have not heard anything from the commission. Now, people claim that electronic transmission is desirable, and that the only problem, according to those who are pushing this, are that INEC readiness and lack of infrastructure. May I inform that today we would have expected that it should be the INEC that should be saying it cannot do it. And INEC will not say so. Because by 2021, when the debate was on, you will all recall that this same debate came up in 2021 before the successful passage.
Okay, quickly, sorry to interject, but we're really pressed for time.
So with respect to that, I feel sad that the commission before we left ready, infrastructure ready, because a total of 93% of network coverage have been established on account of the NCC and INEC technical report on e-transmission.
All right, quickly, in the interest of time, Mike, sorry to interject, we're time pressed. I just want you to speak quickly to INEC seeming silence to what is going on with the options of, them deciding manually or otherwise, and perhaps the concerns? You've talked about the fact that 105 cases were successfully implemented. What could be the caveat that is pushing this narrative and even compelling the House of Reps to change their position?
We push the blame on the doorstep of the Supreme Court of Nigeria, my constituency. It was the decision of the Supreme Court, the tribunals, that the mandatory requirement for e-transmission as contained in the regulations and guidelines issued by INEC pursuant to the power given to you under Section 160 of the Constitution as well as Section 148 of the Constitution should have been written in the Electoral Act, which is wrong because there are three principal legal frameworks that govern election in all jurisdictions around the world, which are the Constitution of that country, the Electoral Act, like our own case, as well as issue guidelines. If the court had not made that argument, today we will not be in this mess that we are finding ourselves. With respect to the danger, this is my worry. The moment you give this type of omnibus discretion, it's going to be abused. It means that there will be no network in many places. I speak from 10 years experience. It's unfortunate. I thought it's a program you really wanted for 2 years. I don't speak. And when you gave me this invitation, I was reluctant because I really have said good night to Nigeria. All right? So the point is, where we are, they are going to put the lives of youth corpers in danger because there's going to be compromise at a polling unit where Nigerians are going to say, you must transmit, and you fail to transmit, what will happen to a youth corper who is a presiding officer? My worry is that there's going to be massive violence. There will be resistance by the Nigerian people. And that is why I am worried for the decision taken now. Because the whole idea of the IRF is to ensure that once the result has been uploaded at the polling unit, had been declared at the polling unit, copies of Form EC8A given to party agent, that result will be uploaded straight to the IRF. Once it's to the IRF and everybody has seen it, it will be difficult, if not impossible, for people to change the result. Because at the level of the ward, at the level of the local government, the collation officers in those levels will have seen those results so that when presiding officer comes to meet them, you cannot do something different from what he or she had seen on the IRF and also be viewed by Nigeria. And that is why the guidelines was very clear that when the results submitted to the ward collation officer or local government is inconsistent with what have been published in the IRF, the result of the IRF will take precedent, will prevail over the other one. But with this amendment, the mobile telecommunication providers, it can connive and say that there is no network.
I mean, that's the concern.
We are back to the political Egypt of 2023 and previous years. All the things that we have done, they are now in vain.
Quite unfortunate, the turn of events with the Electoral Act. I want to first off say, while I understand your hesitation, I think I speak for a majority of Nigerians when I say that your years with the INEC was seen by a lot of people, and the general saying is there is danger when good men stay silent. So we appreciate the time you've given to us, and I'm told to let you know that please, this is just the news. We would schedule a proper long-term conversation so we can learn from your experience over the years. Thank you so much for your time, sir.
Thank you.
Coming up, DSS witness says suspects in our church attack were funded. We'll tell you more when we come back. You're watching tonight on News Central. A reminder of our top stories. Senate passes Electoral Act Amendment Bill as protests resume over real-time transmission of votes. Nigeria joins Muslim faithful across the world to usher in holy month of Ramadan as Saudi Arabia sides crescent moon. World leaders pay tribute to United States civil rights leader Jesse Jackson, who dies at 84. Let's take the report from the Senate, where there was an emergency plenary sitting to make amendments to the 2027 election timeline and a decisive vote on the controversial electronic transmission provision. News Centre's National Assembly correspondent was at plenary and has this report for us.
The Senate is reconvening for the second time since it went on recess. After the preliminaries, the Senate leader breaks the ice, informing lawmakers the reason for the emergency assembly, saying that it is with regards to the timeline for the 2027 election, which falls within the Ramadan period.
Senate equally notes that upon further critical review of the bill as passed, it has been observed that the 360 days notice requirement prescribed in clause 28 may result in the scheduling of the 2027 presidential and national assembly election within the period of Ramadan.
The Senate leader then moved that the Senate enters a closed-door session to continue consideration of the bill. The doors were reopened to the public after an hour. It was at this point that consideration on the contentious clause 60 was being considered, especially the provision that allows manual transmission when e-transmission fails.
And then you rule. Whether you rule based on discretion, so you don't put the question. You cannot tell him to rule. Once it is 72, there's no ruling. If the essence of his call for division is for him or any other person, with due respect, who wants Nigerians to see where he stands, or who especially wants his political party to see where he stands, let it be so. Now, we are not doing anything here based on emotions or sentiment. Yes. We are not doing anything here because we want people to clap for us. We are here doing things in overriding public interest. Point of order by the leader sustained. I have stated time without number. The last time Senator Abaribe withdrew his call for division, he was attacked on the social media. He has a right. Yes, it's an opportunity for him to correct it. So what Senator Abaribe is asking for, Senator Plan, what Senator Abaribe is asking for is that he would like to be seen there in the social media. Mr. President, that is not true. I am talking for Nigerians, not for Senator Abaribe. I want Nigerians to know. I want Nigerians to know. So now, I move your motion. Move your motion. Then go into the order. Mr. President, and I'll rule. Order 72. 1. Any senator may challenge the opinion of the president by claiming a division. So I'm calling for a division. So if you are in support that the proviso, which enables the presiding officer to proceed to the next center for collation with the hard copy of the signed form EC8A, so that collation can continue. If you are in support that the word proviso remains to enable the presiding officer to do so after imputing all the items, can you rise and raise your hand so that the public can see you? Come and count. Come and count. Sorry. Sergeant at arms, count. The results are as follows. Those who do not want any proviso are 15 in number. And those who want the proviso are 55 in number. And so the proviso says,
In the end, the majority had their way, while the minority had their say. The proviso remained and the notice period for elections reduced from 360 days to 300 days. Earlier in the sitting, the lawmakers received 2 correspondences from the president, one requesting the confirmation of Ismail Yusuf as the new chair of the National Hajj Commission of Nigeria, as well as Rear Admiral Jamila Marafa retired as a resident electoral commissioner in Adamawa State. From the National Assembly Abuja for News Central, Sagir Ibrahim.
A witness from the Department of State Services has told the Federal High Court in Abuja that defendants accused of terrorism were funded and armed to attack St. Francis Catholic Church in Owo, Ondo State. The witness, identified as SSI and testifying under protection, said more than 40 people were killed and over 100 injured. He appeared as the 9th prosecution witness before Justice Emeka Wite. The prosecution submitted a comprehensive investigation report. The court admitted the document into evidence without objection from the defense. And one of our top stories tonight, Nigeria will join more than 1.8 billion Muslim faithful across the world to observe the month of fasting from sunrise to sunset each day, beginning from Wednesday. This follows an official announcement on Tuesday by the Saudi Arabia that it had sighted the crescent moon, marking the beginning of Ramadan 1447. With the Hilal confirmed, the Tarawih prayers will be held after the Isha prayer tonight, while the holy month of Ramadan begins the next day, which is Wednesday. However, only Japan will begin the Ramadan on Thursday, February the 19th, as confirmed by the Hilal Vision Committee after the crescent moon was not sighted. Away from Nigeria, one of the biggest news out of the United States today is that veteran American activist Jesse Jackson has died at the age of 84. His family said his lifelong commitment to justice and equality inspired generations. Jackson rose to prominence as a close associate of Martin Luther King Jr. He founded Operation Push and the Rainbow Coalition to advance social justice and ran for the Democratic presidential nomination in 1984 and 1988. His campaigns boosted African-American participation in national politics, paving the way for Barack Obama's 2008 election. Jackson also served as a mediator in international missions and as a special envoy for Africa under President Bill Clinton. His family urged supporters to continue advocating for civil rights.
I'm a bad guy. Just from time history that we're on fighting for civil rights. The busing for racial balance was not about transportation, it was about race. It was not the bus, it was us.
Tonight returns with business, sports and entertainment news. Stay with us. Thank you for staying with us. Before we bring you business, let's quickly hop on this conversation on the life and times of Jesse Jackson with Professor Anthony Killer. He is a strategy and policy expert. Thank you very much for being here. I was just writing that Jesse's legacy is known and his life is well celebrated. So instead of asking about you to talk about his life and times, I'd rather ask, in what ways did his activism extend beyond the U.S. civil rights movement to global human rights issues?
Well, I think it is important to start by saying that the passing away of Jesse Jackson marks an end in the global civic history. It does not close the chapter he has started to write, but it marks an end to a part of it. Jackson belonged to a generation that saw struggle not as spectacle, but as a structure. He did not see struggle as an outrage alone. He saw it as organization. So his passing away, as you ask now, calls us to reflect on things that go far beyond the borders of the United States and takes us especially in a place like Africa, where questions of leadership, justice, inclusion, and governance remain both urgent and resolved. If we want to remember Jesse Jackson properly, we must receive simplification. He was not just a civil rights activist in the narrow sense. He was a political organizer, a moral rhetorician, a bridge builder, and at times even an uncomfortable mirror held to power. So to that extent, the civil leadership is something that becomes universal. And what his America went through is what many countries in Africa are still going through. And I dare say perhaps some part of America. So beyond America, Jesse Jackson becomes a symbol of struggle of liberation that not only lamented injustice and exclusion, but importantly, he became a structure. He saw struggle as organization, not just lamentation.
Okay, let's bring it a bit closer home. What would you say his life should teach Nigeria about sustaining movements, building political coalitions, and transforming protest energy into long-term institutional change? Because we know that he ran for president twice. He found other ways to push his purpose, beyond protesting. So I want you to, give us some thoughts on that.
Well, I think the lesson to learn there is to see organization as power. One of Jackson's most enduring lessons, I think, is that protest without organizations expires quickly. Protests and marches, they create visibility. But what gives durability is institutions. And that is one thing that Jackson understood deeply, from his work with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. to his leadership at the Rainbow, the Push Coalition you mentioned. He invested not only, this is the point, not only in moral appeal, not only in emotional disdain or social discomfort, he pushed for organizational capacity, which means that people need to learn that it is not enough to be angry, to be unsatisfied with a situation, but you need to organize to change it. I think that is a key lesson, For African audience, the lesson is very important across continents, starting from Nigeria. The civic energy is abundant. The youth movement rise, protests come up, then they die very quickly. Too often momentum dissipates, and it does not translate to structure. It does not translate to change. Jesse Jackson taught that protest must be organized and is most transformed to change.
All right, Prof, thank you for speaking with us tonight. We appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me.
We'll be back with the rest of the news.
Talking business now, Nigeria's data protection regulator has launched an investigation into Chinese-owned e-commerce platform Temu over alleged violations of the country's data laws. The Nigeria Data Protection Commission said concerns about Temu's data processing practices, including online surveillance, opaque handling of user information, cross-border data transfers, and possible breaches of data minimization rules, prompted the probe. NDPC Chief Vincent Olatunji warned that any confirmed non-compliance could attract legal sanctions. We also tell you that Nigeria's Dangote Group has sealed a $400 million equipment agreement with China's Zhuzhou Construction Machinery Group to accelerate expansion of its oil refinery toward a targeted capacity of 1.4 million barrels per day. The deal will supply heavy-duty machinery to support ongoing projects in refining, petrochemicals, agriculture, and infrastructure, with completion projected within 3 years. Polypropylene capacity will increase to 2.4 million tons annually, while urea output will triple to 9 million tons, strengthening the group's global position. And talking equities now, the market cooled off as the all-share index slipped 0.5% to close at 189,321.24 points, trimming market capitalization to about 121.552 trillion naira. So after the previous explosive rally, this session felt more like recalibration than panic, with profit taking that we saw clearly in visible sectors. We now look at how the sector performed, starting with the banking industry that dropped sharply by 3.69%. The sell pressure hit tier 1 names like GTCO and Zenith Bank, effectively setting the negative tone for the day. Insurance, we saw, eased 0.57%, reflecting mild weaknesses. Oil and gas dipped 0.06%, suggesting traders were reluctant to unwind positions after its recent strength. Consumer goods stood out 2.54% on the rise as defensive counters attracted fresh inflows, helping to cushion the broader decline. And finally, industrial goods dropped 0.5%, with Dangote Cement expressing light pullback after its previous surge. That's it on business. I'm Lekon Obanjo.
Hello and welcome to sports. Reigning African champions Nigeria Super Falcons are set to face Cameroon's indomitable Lionesses in 2 friendly matches as part of their preparations ahead of the 2026 Women's Africa Cup of Nations scheduled for Morocco next month. Both teams will clash in Yaoundé on the 28th of February and the 3rd of March. And according to the NFF General Secretary Mohamed Sanusi, the Federation is committed to ensuring proper preparation for the team to retain their WAFCON title in Morocco and qualify for next year's FIFA Women's World Cup finals in Brazil. All 4 semi-finalists at the WAFCON, billed to begin from the 17th to April 3rd, will qualify directly for next year's FIFA Women's World Cup finals in Brazil. Now, England winger Bukayo Saka has signed a new 5-year contract with Arsenal until 2031. According to reports, the new deal will make Saka the club's best-paid player on wages in excess of £300,000 a week. Talks over a new deal have been ongoing for nearly a year, with Saka verbally agreeing to commit his future to the club in January. Saka signed his previous deal, which was due to expire in 2027 in 2023, but his renewal means the 24-year-old has committed his peak years to the Gunners. He made his first team debut as a 17-year-old in 2018 after coming through Arsenal's academy, and has gone on to make 217 Premier League appearances, scoring 57 goals. The news comes as a major boost for Arsenal, who are 4 points clear at the top of the Premier League table and will face Manchester City in the EFL Cup final in March. And the Confederation of African Football today held the quarter-final draws for the CAF Champions League and Confederations Cup at the Egyptian FA headquarters in Cairo. In the Champions League, Pyramids FC will face Asfar. Al Ahly will meet Esperance de Tunis, RS Berkane will take on Al Hilal, and Mamelodi Sundowns will clash with Stade Malien. In the Confederations Cup, Zamalek will face AS Otoho de Oyo, AS Manema Union will meet USM Alger, Wydad Casablanca will tackle Olympique de Safi, while Al Masry will challenge CL Belouizdad. First leg matches will scheduled to take place between the 13th and 15th of March, with return legs will take place on the 20th to the 22nd of March, setting the stage for decisive knockout action in African football. To boxing now, Tyson Fury claims he will have no trainer or nutritionist for his comeback fight against Aslanbek Makhmudov. The 2-time heavyweight world champion will come out of retirement on the 11th of April after a year-long spell away from boxing. American coach Sugar Hill Stewart had trained Fury since 2019, helping him reclaim the WBC world title, and coached him in the 2 defeats to Alexander Usyk. This time around, Fury says he will do it all by himself for his comeback training camp. The 37-year-old, who has 34 wins in 37 fights, including 1 draw, says he wants to make boxing great again and that he intends to win a world title during his comeback, and dismissed claims that he might struggle to sell 60,000 tickets at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium alongside the unheralded Makhmudov. And that's all on sports tonight. Entertainment is up next with Sam Dandy.
And now in entertainment, Nollywood star Timini Eguson is buzzing. His latest film, Love and New Notes, has delivered a massive box office haul, earning over 106 million naira in its opening weekend, making it the highest grossing Nollywood film of 2026 so far. Set in 1984 Nigeria and directed by ace filmmaker Kayode Kasum, the romantic drama hit cinemas on February the 13th and quickly topped the weekend charts with this year's biggest opening and highest single-day gross. Fans and the film's production team credited strong audience support for the record-breaking debut, as well, of course, as Timini's growing influence both as a leading actor and a producer in the film industry. Congrats to him on that one. Let's move out of Africa. U.S. R&B singer R. Kelly has been placed in solitary confinement at the federal prison in North Carolina. Authorities investigate his position of a retired prison official's phone number, an unusual security concern, according to his attorney. The investigations focused on whether the communication violated prison rules, has kept him isolated during the probe. Kelly, already serving a long sentence on federal convictions, is being held separately from general inmate population while the Bureau of Prison reviews the matter. Well, let's see how this one pans out. But those are the biggest stories in entertainment. I am Sam Dandy.
And that's our offering tonight. As always, we would appreciate the feedback. Share them using the numbers showing now on your screen. Would appreciate a follow on social media as well at News Central TV. You can catch updates live on DSTV channel 422, GoTV channel 23, Star Times channel 274, Avo TV, and on YouTube. Thank you for your kind company. Good night.